Welcome back to Metropolis. Destroyed, wrecked, fucked up Metropolis. It is your host, Vanessa, Keenan, Mike. How are you guys doing? How did you we just saw each other, so I mean I know how you guys are doing. For everyone who doesn't know, how are you guys doing? Mike?
I'm doing okay. That's it. Today could be better. But yeah, I'm just trying to take one thing at a time. So yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing, Keenan?
Days have been better, but I'm moving along. This was yeah, today.
Yeah, everybody's going through it this week. Yeah, I get it. It was a long day. I completely understand. So hopefully this episode brought us some laughter, some joy or whatever. For a bit of news, we did cover all the DC Studio drops that happened, or the embargo lifted on Monday. If you go check that out on multiverseofcolor.com. But real recap, we have Starfire, animated series, My Adventures with the Green Lantern animated series, and DC Superpowers animated series all coming soon. So that's very exciting. But yeah, go check out our episode on the website or on our YouTube, and you can see our actual reactions along with Phil and Andy. So yeah, we're here to cover Harley Quinn podcast. We are the Harley Quinn podcast covering Season 5, Episode 7. I can't remember what this episode's called, but it doesn't matter. You'll see it in the YouTube channel notes or whatever, or the article. But this is probably the most action-packed episode we've seen so far. So much destruction, so much fighting, so much violence, a lot of betrayals, mysteries, twists. Really gross sexual humor once more. That's what Harley Quinn's known for. It was a fun episode. Some of my suspension of disbelief with the super family not being around is starting to stretch a bit. But I also understand that this is Harley Quinn and it's about Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. So I take that with a little bit of a, I understand that. But yeah, what were your guys' overall thoughts on this episode? We'll dive into all the stuff, but we cover Frank's funeral, we meet Frankette, we see the Dutch immersion school finally.
Much of the Dutch immersion school.
Right, like Jesus, someone on the writing staff definitely has a kid doing a dual immersion language class because they put this so much into the season. Brainiac gets blamed for Brank's death, and then we find out it's not actually Brainiac. What did you guys think of this episode, Keenan?
I had a good time. It was a lot. And I mean, I don't know if I said this already, but oh my God, it's Lena all along. It's been Lena.
Mm-hmm. What did you think, Mike?
Yeah, I kind of called it saying never trust a Luthor. I've seen Smallville, even though I've seen I think that's her name. Yeah, it is Lena, right? In Smallville, but just
it was something else. It was Tess Mercer. She found out later on that her name was actually was adopted. Her name was actually Lena or something. Lena Luthor. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, we've been down this road, before. So welcome to your first DC story, I guess, for people. But yeah, I like the fact that this is more of not exposition episode, but just kind of getting through, like wrapping some plot points, moving the story further, and not like kind of just delaying things. Still mystery about in terms of what's Lena overall plan. I mean, he talked it with Brainiac, but at least now we get to a point where it's like, hey, Harley and Ivy conflict with Brainiac and stuff. So it kind of wrapped that point. Now he's kind of MIA for the moment because he's shrunken down and stuff. And now Lena is the full-on villain, which it's nice to see again. Balance. Not just have angry man villain and against these women. Like no, that's and also kind of going to I was suspecting a Justice League Unlimited type of like Luthor Brainiac hybrid. But at least you got somewhat close to it. But she just took, just took the ship in control and everything. A painful scene, but yeah.
Listen, I just watched Hellraiser for the Rewind podcast, and it was very much giving me she's turning into a Cenobite. Like, what is happening, Lita?
Yeah, that was a wild scene. I honestly was surprised that like it went that far, but like it makes sense. Like we were speculating at the very beginning of the season what if Lena was involved or what her overall role was, how is this going to work out? And in the same vein of a lot of Brainiac Luthor stories, usually it's Lex Luthor and Brainiac tussling, but this is a Luthor and a Brainiac. They're always at odds or working together, and it makes sense that the relationship would end this way. And it's funny that it's went down this way instead of it wasn't like some like tug of war for power. It was Brainiac's just depressed and he just doesn't care. And so like I thought that was a really funny, clever, and sad way to kind of like have him just kind of be essentially nerfed for I guess however long he's gonna be, for Lena to like really take over because she is going to be like the main villain, I guess, for the rest of the season.
Right.
The way they like went about that. But let's talk about the funeral for Frank. We'll talk about Lena and Brainy at the end, but I want to talk about the Frank funeral and Frankette. We saw a glimpse of her in the trailer before the season started, and so everyone, all the Harley Quinn fans were like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! Is this like?" They were speculating who Frank, this little like plant with the bow is, and now we know who this little plant is. It's Frank and Ivy's basically their biological daughter. I don't know, which is funny because Frank just called Ivy mom, so I don't know. Their plants have a strange breeding thing. What do we think about the funeral and all that, and the Frankette reveal, and even like the conversation that Frank and Ivy had in the green? Because I really love Frank and Ivy's relationship. It is really one of the strongest ones of the show, highlighted by her grieving and like the fact that she's so focused on vengeance because she doesn't want to focus on her sadness. And he's just like, hey, get your shit together. You can get vengeance from me later, but you need to focus right now,
baby.
Yeah. So what do we think about the whole Frank story and funeral and all that? Keenan?
I love Frank, so that was really rough. I was like, no, not Frank leaving, but I love that we are going to have this kind of version of him. We get to see Frankette grow up. The next holiday plushie, we're gonna have Cryptos and we're gonna have Frankettes.
Little Frankette.
Yes, and their conversation in the green was precious. I love their relationship. I think I love them, and I love Poison Ivy and Harley. So this was just another way to highlight how much those two love each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm wondering to see how far this show's gonna go because you're now chipping at the main cast members from season 1. Like you're almost kind of benching, King Shark a little bit. You already bench one of the villain. I forgot the villain with the big head.
Dr. Psycho. You're right.
Dr. Psycho.
Yeah, Dr. Psycho and stuff like that. So it's kind of just like it's like you kind of like tying up loose ends. Now understand, what this being what 5th season is like. Yeah, you earned it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean that's just kind of part of it. But I also like that dynamic now. It's like, okay, now you have Ivy and Harley as aunties, and now you have Ivy and Harley as mothers. And what kind of how that bridge in terms of their dynamic and everything, and how I guess different parenting was when she was being auntie to the King Shark kids, but then when it's her own child, how it's different. In terms of dependency and everything like that. So, and stuff like that. So, I mean, again, I know that's around the corner for me and everything. I know Vanessa, you experienced that, but it's just kind of like showing just that dynamic. And I'm happy again, no matter how crazy that this show may be in terms of plant hybrid, human, king shark children, whatever. You're still seeing human relationships in these characters in a way that's healthy, and unrealistic, even though it's in the abnormal. So that's one thing I just kind of gravitate to the show a lot, though. It's like there's themes here, if you just pay attention, if you look past the craziness of it all. But
yeah. That's a good point. We actually see 3 different four different versions of parenthood in this season alone. We see Joker with his stepdaughter. We see Bane with his stepdaughter. We see, or with his adopted daughter, I believe. We see
King Shark.
Bruce, King Shark, Bruce with his kids, King Shark with his kids, and then so it's really 5, and then Harley and Ivy with Frankette now, and all of them are very different. But a lot of the common theme is that these parents are like super overwhelmed and like aren't the best parents to their kids. Most of them aren't that great. Like King Shark is like never with his kids, it feels like. And Bruce is just like a terrible person all in general, this version of him. But it's like they're trying. And I think that's really important. Like Bane is so involved. He's so involved in his kids' lives versus like King Shark, who feels like he's never around them. So I think it's actually so smart and like realistic, I guess, which is crazy because this is a silly show, but it's realistic to showcase this, how different parents like they're all different. All their parenting styles are different. The way they approach parenting is different. And I like that. Now that I'm at the age, like I'm a mom, it makes me feel like, I don't know. I like seeing it on screen. I like seeing the different options and being like, oh my God, this is why I would never have 8 fucking kids. Like they're just like, it's just nice to see that. But it was a good point. Like I think that's a lot of parenting, and like seeing Ivy kind of just reject it from the beginning is interesting because she doesn't want to deal with. That means if she accepts Frank's actually gone, you know?
Right.
So I think that's gotta be hard on her. Let's talk about Lena. Beautiful Lena. And the way she clocked the fuck out of Harley and Ivy. She didn't need to take Frankette for any reason. Except for what? To weaken them. And that is like the whole point of the show. The fact that Harley made a deal with Lena, Frank's murderer, didn't tell Ivy at first, and then was like, oh, I did it. Ivy blows up at her. This is their weakness. Their weakness is not being strong together. And Lena exploiting that is so smart because she's been stalking them basically this whole season, showing up at their house, inside their house. And I thought that it was so smart, like so clever of her to say that at the end when she was like, oh, I don't actually care about Frankette. Like, I just know that this is a wrench in their relationship and they're weaker without it. So love that. What do we think about that and her transformation, and her kind of just being a mastermind and I don't know, she's just cool. I kind of love Lena.
It was great. I love it. Absolutely diabolical. I love it when a pot just comes together, when she's like, okay, now it's time to lay everything out on the table. There's always something satisfying about those scenes.
I agree.
Yeah, I feel it's also another example of, people keeping people out of your relationship, and then when people are seeping through, how dangerous that can be for not only yourself as the individual, but for each other and the entirety of the relationship. Because again, she's acting like all buddy, and not even having boundaries, not just as you as an individual, but as a couple. And it's not talking about intentions; it's talking about prevention. In terms of establishing like, hey, I'm, come in your place in your home or whatever like that. There's a certain way I should act as a person if I actually care about you. So yeah, I think this is kind of showing that even how there's a suchness from being nice and being kind. Nice is an act, kindness is who you are.
Yeah.
So it's like, Lena was never a kind person. She was nice because all the things she was giving, Ivy and Harley and all that stuff, and moving them in, but it was because the intention of what she wanted for her own self and everything. You see how far she's willing to go, but then that's also a part of not only gaslighting but also narcissism, because she's hey, I didn't need to take the kid, but I'm just this is gonna do something so I can have power. Or hey, this play is not moving in the pace that I want it. Let me go kill him. It just because you let it play out, whatever. Like, no, I'm bored. I want to stir things up. So yeah. So
yeah, that's true. The Luthers regard everyone as their playthings. Like they think of themselves as superior to everyone. So it makes sense that she would move like that. And she's very manipulative. She's been manipulative this entire season. I did forget another parenting example, Brainiac with his kid. and he's another. He's like the perfect example of like that cold father that you can never like make happy or never please. He's always like, you could do better than that. Yeah, well, you got an A-, you should have got an A+. Like those are all the different types of like parenting like I appreciate that we see. And I wonder if we'll see more. Like obviously John Kent does not exist in this universe, so we can't like we're not going to see that the Superman and Lois parenting, but I would like to see more examples of like that in the season. I don't know how many we have, like 3 episodes left, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, oh my god. So actually the season's probably gonna start wrapping up. But anyway, Brainiac being depressed. Speaking of Brainiac being depressed over Coco still carrying over to this episode, and him addressing the audience again, which is always throws me off. And him just like watching the musical over and over, like he's just eating those little like microchips or whatever, and like I just felt so bad for him. This show does a really good job of making you feel bad for or feel empathy for villains that you normally wouldn't. Like there's a point where like I was like there was one point in the previous season where I was actually on Joker's side, because I think it was like that scene with the heart, I think it was Two-Face or whatever. That one, I can't remember which one it was, but I was like, and this show is so good at that because I normally hate the Joker. So it's fascinating the way they're writing Brainiac. I think he might like I said, I think this is my favorite version of Brainiac. What do we think about that? And any last thoughts before we wrap up? Because I think we covered everything, unless you guys want to dive in deep on the Dutch immersion school. And I guess he destroyed Metropolis. He's destroyed Metropolis. His depression led him to just destroy. It was like, well, you guys are gonna kill me, so I'm gonna destroy Metropolis.
I'm
crazy.
I'm good, yeah.
But yeah. What are your thoughts, Mike?
I mean, I think kind of relatable. Going at my depressed season like years ago. Just sitting there. Stuff was like, yeah, been there. And I think also the fact that, again, about the sympathy for him is he has I'll not say insecurity, but his head of not letting things go and striving for perfection is therefore is imperfection in his own mindset. And I think that he's slowly realized that, well, I am actually insane. I'm not the intellectual guy. He's really coming to grasp with that. So he's going through like an identity crisis with their internally, and by doing that, projecting outward the third person, talking to the audience. But him also destroying Metropolis, like, hey, it's about time. Hey, hopefully we get Superman or something. I'm waiting for like a pod to drop in so we can get Kara or something. I don't know. I'm not gonna have my expectations up for this show. I just let it be. But I just felt this was realistic. But I do agree with you. Like in this show, even how they blanket all these DC characters who are in the dark, especially like the Batman ones, like all these characters, but yet you see them through a new lens. So you have sympathy for Bane, for Clayface, for all these characters, Riddler. But even then, it's just like you're seeing all like in different lenses, but at the same time, it's like you're showing their humanity. So like when cinematically, when we do see some of them wondering why we love them, like, well, that part of humanity we've got in comics, but now people can get in the, younger audience can go watch this in the show, which is, the beauty about different, mediums and everything like that, now. But aside from that, I don't really have any speculation for next week's episode. I'm just, on for the ride, but I'm glad to move in the plot. And but yeah.
Cool. What did you think, Kanan?
I normally don't love a story about making me feel sympathy for my villains, but this show does such a good job of making me go, oh, that hurts. Like I feel bad for Brainiac. I feel for him. I'm definitely saying, Mike, been there, know exactly what that whole situation looks like. So I'm interested to see how the rest of this is going to go. I did forget when we were talking about Lena to mention just how they closed out on her giving us an Ursula like cackle.
Yeah.
I was like, not her channeling her Ursula right now. I'm here for it.
That's true. I was gonna say something I completely forgot.
Do we have any sympathy for Lena? I don't.
No. And they're not trying to make us sympathy for her.
I don't. And that's what I think I like the most about her, is that she's unsympathetic, because she's a dick to everyone, unless she's like being nice to them to gain something. She's kind of a dick. And I like that. I like that she's just like whatever, like it's just so over the top, like a very Cruella de Vil-esque like kind of woman who just doesn't give a shit. Like I'm just gonna I want this, so I'm going to have it. Like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's fun. I don't feel bad for her at all. And I don't know if we actually ever will. Maybe we will. I don't know. But yeah, I was going to say something and I forgot. There was a bringing up thing and I forgot. Actually, maybe not. Is there any other things that you guys can think of that you want to cover about this episode?
Whenever I have children, I know if I'm a parent and them into cussing, maybe if I have a boy, maybe just between him and his mom don't find out, maybe. But it's just like I'm not. You didn't hear it from me, whatever. But that was just a nice moment. Just to
Yeah, that's
that,
cute.
you know.
Yeah, that was cute. And it's so funny because I'm having to censor myself because Ivy's repeating everything that I say. My daughter Ivy, not the TV Ivy. She's repeating everything I say. And like I said ass the other day and she went ass. And I was like, So now I have that scene, and this the first time I watched that scene, that hadn't happened yet, and then I watched it again. I was like, oh my god, I had this moment with my daughter, and it's not as cute. I was like, don't say that again. But I didn't react. You're not supposed to react. Toddlers will just repeat it. So that's my number one advice. Going through this, don't repeat, don't react, or don't react. They will actually absolutely repeat it. But anyway, this is a fun episode. We got a new character. We got officially done with Frank. Unless we see him in the green, which I assume we'll see him again. Shout out to JB Smoove, who has been killing it as Frank the last 5 seasons, and hopefully this is not the last time we see him or hear him, I guess. But I'm excited to see more of Frank act. And yeah, yep. So yeah, you guys visit multiverseofcolor.com for any of the latest news about DC Studios. Literally, go watch our stream we just did on Monday about all the new stuff that came out for DC. You can hear me talk shit about Tom King and sort of things. You can hear some of Mike's impressions on stream. It was actually a really fun live stream, so definitely go check that out and check out the website. Follow us on @MultiverseColor, @DC Studio Podcast, @The Multiverse of Color. We have so many different versions of the stuff, but you can just go to the website multiversecolor.com and like scroll to the bottom. You'll see all the little social links that you can find. Yeah, before we go, where can our listeners find you, Keenan?
You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky at Geeks on Camera and at the Rewind Podcast on Instagram.
Yes. Where can our listeners find you, Mike?
Yeah, you can find me YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all socials at Jedi Mike 7. I already dropped a video essay today on Star Wars related and everything going on right now, but I got stuff coming later this month on the DC side and everything. So yeah, that's so looking forward to that. But yeah, everywhere at Jedi Mike right here.
Nice. And you can find me at Vanessa Shark on everything. I'm not sure why mine says Multiverse of Color, not my name.
Yeah,
but
my
whatever.
name's changed too. I was like, wait, hold up.
What's going on here? You can find me, I have a website, vanessashark.com, that I update periodically. My Marvel Comics for Dummies review just went live today on multiverseofcolor.com. So by the time you guys are listening to this, it'll be yesterday. So go read it on multiverseofcolor.com. I interviewed the author, and the book was really fun. So if you're literally purely a DC fan and have never read anything Marvel, that is a good book for you. You can follow me at Vanessa Shark on everything, right? I said that already. Yeah. Until next time, we'll be covering episode 8, 9, and 10 here on the Harley Quinn podcast. Yeah. Enjoy. Bye.
Bye.